Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another episode of the Underhive Wars. This is a series of Necromunda battle reports for our Dominion campaign for Sector number 7, and it is a Tunnel Skirmish scenario that is fought between my two friends, Sergeant Sigmarine as well as Screamo the Emo. My friend Sergeant Sigmarine is bringing the Sleeping Dogs of House Delaque, while Screamo the Emo is bringing our current campaign champion, which is the Red Faction of the Genestealer Cults. So these two gangs will be throwing out in a Tunnel Skirmish. I'll be kind of interested to see exactly what happens because up to this point, the Red Faction have been undefeated and they are leading in our campaign in both in terms of territory, reputations, gang ratings, the works. So it'll be kind of interesting to see exactly how this one plays out. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what the gangs are bringing, go and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so the scenario is called Tunnel Skirmish. For the crews, both gangs get 10 fighters for each side, and deployment is standard 6-inch deployment zones inside of a Zone Mortalis battle-type battlefield. And as you can see on this one, my friends are playing inside the tombs. The objective is to take out as many as the enemy as possible by putting them out of action. You earn 3 points for taking out leaders, 2 points for champions, as well as 1 point for everyone else. And no fighters left in the round, the battle ends, and if one gang scored more points than the other, then they win. In the case of both gangs earning the same amount of points, it ends in a draw. For the rewards for credits, the gang scoring the most points earns 2d6 times credits, while the loser receives d3 times 5 credits. In the case of a draw, both gangs win d6 times 10 credits. For experience, all fighters earn 1 experience point for taking part in this scenario, while the winning gang leader earns +1 experience point. And for the reputation, +2 points for the gang who scores the most points, +1 for each gang for fighting each other for the very first time, and if either gang bottles out, they lose that experience point. That reputation point. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the battle plan real quick. As you can see, my friends are fighting in the tombs. My friend Screamo the Emo is deployed on the near side of the table, while my friend Sergeant Sigmarine is deployed on the far side of the table as well. As for what their battle plan really is, I'm not really sure what it is going to be as my friend's playing, so I'm just kind of taking photographs at this point. However, I will admit it looks like that my friend Screamo the Emo is planning on doing a surprise attack. As you can see on the very top left-hand corner of the screen, he has one of his Alkalite hybrids. I believe that hybrid Alkalite, I believe that's Benjamin Marsh, which is the one who's been doing a lot of killing in the campaign so far. I think he has the infiltrate skill, so he can deploy in the battlefield anywhere as long as he's not within 6 inches of an enemy. And that pretty much makes up the battle plan for this one. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about deployment real quick from our friend Screamo the Emo. In the center of his deployment area, he has Obed Marsh. That's his gang leader, who's an alpha. He's got an autogun, 3 stub guns, a respirator, as well as dum-dum bullets. He has the commanding presence as well as the gunfighter skills. He's also got a 3rd arm as well. In that little area, he's got his little 4-man posse team. First up, that is Arkham. That is a guy who's armed with a power maul and auto pistol, as well as Pickman, who's armed with a power pick and auto pistol, and Innsmouth, who's armed with a chainsword as well as an auto pistol. And then finally, he has his last neophyte hybrid, that is Artemage. He's armed with a respirator as well as a mining laser, and he's also got a 3rd arm, so he can move and shoot that mining laser with relative ease. On the far right hand side, that is his aberrant, that is Zadok Allen. He's got mesh armor as well as a power hammer, and he's also got the unstoppable skill. And that makes up the deployment for the Red Faction on the near side of the table. And on the far side of the table, left-hand side, that is Benjamin Marsh. That is a hybrid Alkalite who's equipped with an auto pistol, a respirator, as well as a fighting knife. He's got the infiltrate, backstab, as well as 3rd arm skills, and because of that, he's deployed on the far side of the battlefield, about 6 inches away from the left-hand side of the Sleeping Dogs. Now over there on the right-hand side, that is my friend Sergeant Sigmarine's left-hand flank. Up in the front, that is Ghost. He is a Juvie who's armed with flak armor, auto pistol, as well as a sword. Right behind him is John St. Jude, who is a champion. He's armed with flak armor as well as twin last pistols. He also has the gunfighter skill. And then behind them is Painless Joe, another champion who's armed with flak armor, a plasma gun, as well as an auto pistol, and he has the fascist shot skill. And that makes a deployment here on the left-hand side for the Sleeping Dogs. In the center of his deployment, in the very center, that is Mr. Sinister, his leader, who's armed with mesh armor, a long rifle with monosight gun shroud, as well as a last pistol. To his left-hand side, that is Miss Spectre. She is a ganger who has flak armor, a last gun, and a last pistol. To his right, that is Reckless, who is a ganger who's armed with flak armor. He's got a grenade launcher equipped with frag and crack grenades, as well as twin auto pistols. And right next to him on the far right-hand side, that is Silk. She's a ganger who has flak armor, auto gun, as well as a last pistol. And on the far right-hand flank, that is Napalm Ned in the back. He is a ganger's armed with flak armor, flamer, as well as a last pistol. And up front, that is Noob the Juvie, who's armed with an auto pistol. And that makes up the Sleeping Dogs deployment on the far side of the table. So with deployment over with, my friends roll off for initiative to see who goes first for turn number 1. Alright, so the top of turn number 1, the Genestealer Cults managed to take the initiative on this one, and my friend Scream of the Emo activates Benjamin Marsh, who charges directly into Ghost. So because of that, the two of them are currently engaged in close combat. And to make matters worse, Benjamin Marsh puts that Juvie out of action with an out cold result. So because of that, he won't be participating in the rest of the scenario. And because Benjamin Marsh took him out in close combat, he does a 3-inch follow through and engages John or St. Jude. In which case, my friend, who goes to my next activation phase, my friend Sergeant Sigmarine decides to activate John or St. Jude and start fighting against Benjamin Marsh in close combat. And unfortunately for Sergeant Sigmarine, John or St. Jude was unable to land any blows against Benjamin Marsh. So because Benjamin Marsh gets a counterattack, Benjamin Marsh, of course, puts him out of action with an out cold result. And it's because of that rending claw from the third arm that Benjamin Marsh has. If he rolled a 6 for one of his wound rolls, so Scream of the Emo also causes double damage on that one because of that third arm. Managed to put John or St. Jude out of action, putting him in an out cold result on that. And since he took out that Gain champion, he does another 3-inch follow through, and he runs right directly into Painless Joe because my friend Sergeant Sigmarine decided to stack up his fighters on the left-hand side. And so because of that, Painless Joe is now engaged in close combat. So with that over with, we go directly to Scream of the Emo, who then activates Zadok Allen. He actually spends a double movement, moving towards the center chamber on the left-hand side, kind of ducking in there in the entrance to the left-hand, the center tunnel, so that way he can get out of the range of fire from his enemies. In response, Sergeant Sigmarine then activates Painless Joe, who then tries to strike against Benjamin Marsh. Was unable to actually cause any wounds in this case. He actually did hit him, but he was just unable to wound him at that part. My friend Scream of the Emo got really lucky, rolled 6s for his armor save. So because of that, Benjamin Marsh strikes back and puts down Painless Joe as well. So this guy is taking out a Juvie as well as 2 Gain champions in close combat. Once again, hitting him with that third arm with that rending ability with a 6-up to wound, causing double damage on that one. So because of that, luckily, Painless Joe did get an out cold result, so he will make a full recovery, as well as Ghost, as well as John or St. Jude. And Benjamin Marsh, man, that guy is just a killer in close combat. So meanwhile, across the other table, Scream of the Emo then activates his gang leader, Obed Marsh, who then also uses commanding ability as well as his cult icon to activate the rest of his fighters. They all do double movements to get out of the chamber there in the deployment area into the corridor there. Up front, of course, is Artemage, followed by Pikmin, followed by Obed Marsh in the center. On the left-hand side, I believe that is Innsmouth, and the far left-hand side, that is Arkham, I believe who that is. Yeah, that's Arkham. He's the guy's armed with the Power Maul. And that makes up movement over here for the red faction. So, fearing the worst, my friend Sergeant Sigmarine then activates Noob as well as Napalm Ned, who is his gangers. Noob moves up his normal movement allowance towards the intersection there, so that way he can take a pot shot at Zadok Allen with his auto pistol. At the same time, though, Napalm Ned does a double move to the left-hand side with his flamer, hopefully trying to provide some covering fire for the rest of his gang, so that way he can burn Benjamin Marsh if he decides to come around the corner and attack his men, because, as everyone knows, inside the tombs, because everything is such a close quarters, flamers are exceptionally deadly in this battlefield. And as crazy as it sounds, Noob actually managed to hit as well as put down and seriously injured Zadok Allen. When he cut loose with his auto pistol, he actually rolled 3 for his rapid fire abilities. So because of that, he does manage to shoot him like 3 times, manages to wound him twice. I'm sorry, not twice. Manages to wound him twice. So because of that, Zadok Allen does go down. He does get a seriously injured roll for one of his rolls, and he also gets a flush wound as well, so he has -1 to his toughness. And because the rest of the gang is just basically being, is just the Sergeant Sigmarine then moves up the rest of his gang. He activates his leader, Mr. Sinister, who then activates the rest of his fighters. And then, of course, he does double movement out of the center deployment area directly to the right-hand side into a file right behind Noob as well. So with the activation phase over with, we go directly to the end phase, and in this one for the recovery roll for Zadok Allen, my friend screamed that Emo rolls a flesh wound, so because of that, Zadok Allen is back on his feet again. Now he is carrying 2 flesh wounds, which means he is now toughness 2, but at the same time though, Zadok Allen is still very deadly. He's got 5 strength, he's got 2 attacks, he's carrying a power hammer, so this guy can still do a lot of good if he needs to for his gang. And that pretty much ends turn number 1 for this battle report. Here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield so that we get an idea what's going on. As you can see, my friend Scream with Emo is starting to press his advance with Zadok Allen in the center, with the rest of his gang kind of filing in, trying to go over to intercept the right hand side. At the same time, my friend Sergeant Sigma is trying to maneuver his gang on the right-hand side of the top, trying to head towards the center of the battlefield, with Napalm Ned protecting his left-hand flank. And as you see, Benjamin Marsh is located all in the top of the battlefield, unable to do anything at this point. And that pretty much ends turn number 1 for this one. So with turn number 1 over with, my friends go directly to the top of turn number 2, and they roll off for initiative to see who goes first. So we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Delaques managed to take the initiative on this one. So my friend Sergeant Sigma then moves up Noob, his normal movement allowance, and actually has him take aim with his auto pistol, and he opens fire onto Zadok Allen once again. And once again, he managed to put a serious injury onto Zadok Allen as well. He just cuts loose with his auto pistol. He actually shoots 3 times again, manages to secure all 3 hits against Zadok Allen. However, of the 3 hits, only 1 managed to wound, so because of that, Zadok Allen does go down and he is seriously bleeding out, which is a bad spot for him to be in, because if he gets charged against by one of the members of the Sleeping Dogs, all my friend Sergeant Sigma has to do is spend a simple action to perform a coup de grace, and then Zadok Allen is out of action. He will only roll up on the serious injury table to see what happens to him. So things are not looking very good for Zadok Allen at this point. Scream the Emo gets to activate next, so he decides to activate Benjamin Marsh, and he spends a double movement moving towards the center of the battlefield to the left-hand side of that center chamber, just bypassing Napalm Ned entirely, so that way he doesn't get shot with a sheet of fire from that flamer, because it looks like Napalm Ned is out for some revenge. Sergeant Sigma then activates his gang leader, Mr. Sinister, who then also activates the 3 other fighters, Reckless, Silk, as well as Spectre. He moves a normal movement allowance right down the center of the corridor to that intersection there, with Mr. Sinister covering left, Silk covering the right hand at the back, Silk covering the right hand flank, Miss Spectre covering the back, as well as Reckless taking point. Now he does open up with his grenade launcher, trying a crack round directly at Zadok Allen, hopefully trying to take him out of action, but unfortunately he wasn't able to hit him because he missed his shot. And that pretty much makes the action phase for Sergeant Sigma. So with that being said, my friend Scream at the end of the day activates his gang leader, Obed Marsh, who then of course with his commanding presence as well as his cult icon, then activates the rest of the members of his gang as well. Up in the front, he sends up a double movement with, I believe that is Pikmin, that's his ganger, who's a neophyte who's armed with a power pick as well as a auto pistol. He takes point right across the center chamber from the right hand side. Right behind him, I believe that is Innsmouth, which is the ganger's armed with a chainsword as well, hybrid armed with a chainsword and auto pistol as well. And he spends double movements for those guys. Now he just spends a normal movement allowance, sending up Armitage right into the center of the corridor there with his mining laser, and he plans on having him pop a shot with that mining laser of his. Right next to him on the right hand side is Obed Marsh. On the left hand side, that is his what's his name? I believe that's Arkham, who's armed with his power maul. And all 3 of those guys are just moving their normal movement allowance so that way they can start taking pot shots at the enemy. So the first thing he does, he takes aim with both Obed Marsh as well as with Arkham. Arkham fails to hit anything with his auto pistol, but Obed Marsh, he manages to cause a serious injury as well as a flesh wound onto Noob. He took a shot with all 3 of his stub guns, and because that character has a 3rd arm, he's able to use all 3 of his arms to do that. Not to mention he's also armed with dum-dum bullets and cause all kinds of problems. So now because Noob is down and he's seriously injured, the next closest target of course is Reckless, which then my friend then activates Armitage, who then takes his mining laser and opens up directly onto Reckless as well. And of course, he managed to hit Reckless with no problem, and also cause the wound because a mining laser has strength 9. And so because all he has to do is not roll a 1, needless to say, Reckless is having a bad day. He is seriously injured, laying on the ground and bleeding out at this point. So with a YOLO crying out in the air, my friend Sergeant Sigma then activates Napalm Ned, who moves up his normal movement allowance over Reckless. He takes aim with his flamer, and he actually opens up onto the red faction. Now the problem with that is that his juvie is laying right in the field of fire on that one, but he doesn't care, I guess, because I guess he's got his blood up, so he opens fire with the flamer, hitting Noob. At the same time, he also hits Pikmin as well as Innsmouth as well, so he mates those guys with flaming attacks. And I guess in the end, the bricks actually kind of worked out. He did cause a flesh wound onto Noob, so Noob is carrying additional flesh wound on him as well. He's not on fire, so he's perfectly fine. But he does cause a critical injury onto Pikmin, so because of that, at the end of the battle report, my friend Scream with Evil will need to make a difficult choice to see if he survives or not. However, he does have a rogue doc in his gang named Old Waitley, who might be able to save him, but he has to roll a d6 on this table to see if he'll survive or not. However, for Innsmouth, Innsmouth comes out completely unscathed by that attack, and he is perfectly fine as well. So at the end of the turn, we go directly to the end phase on this one. What's his name? Zadok Allen gets back on his feet again with a flesh wound. He only got a toughness of 1 now, carrying 3 flesh wounds in total. When he rolled for his recovery for Noob, Noob also rolled a flesh wound as well. So because of that, he does go out of action. And when he rolled for the serious injury for that guy, he rolled a critical injury. And just like my friend Scream the Emo, Sergeant Sigmund's got to make a difficult choice to shell out Krez to save Noob or to let him die. I'm thinking because he just shot him with a flamer, he could care less if Noob survives or not. So with turn number 2 over with, we go over an overhead shot of the battlefield so that way you can see what's going on. It looks like all the chaos is taking place over here on the right hand side of the battlefield. There are several members of the Sleeping Dogs who are down, while there's still several members of Red Faction still alive. It looks like the main attack is going along the main axis there in the center of the tunnel, with Zadok Allen carrying 3 flesh wounds in the center, as well as Benjamin Marsh is kind of lurking there on the left hand side. So with the end of turn number 2, my friends go directly to the top of turn number 3, and they both roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so the top of turn number 3 goes to the Delaque, so my friend Sergeant Simmery gets to go first, and the first thing he does is he activates his gang leader, Mr. Sinister. And since Mr. Sinister can activate 3 fighters, he activates Reckless, as well as Silk. Oh, sorry, not Silk, yeah. Miss Spectre, that's her name. She's the one armed with the last gun, and also activates Napalm Ned. He sends Reckless crawling back 2 inches away from the intersection so that way he stops getting shot at. He has Napalm Ned move up his normal moon allowance, taking point with Silk behind it. Sorry, not Silk, with Miss Spectre right behind him, as well as Mr. Sinister taking the back. And because of that, you can see right there, Napalm Ned is aiming right down the pike with his flamer, and he opens fire. And with one single sheet and gouting burst of flame, he hits all 4 members of Red Faction, starting off with Innsmouth, as well as with Armitage, with Obed Marsh, as well as, Arkham. So because of that, all 4 of those guys are now covered in fire, and he just engulfed the entirety of the gang in one shot. Like I said, this is a pretty brutal battle between these 2 gangs in close quarters, and Flamers perform exceptionally well in these close confines. So when it's all said and done, as you can see in this battle, as you can see from this injury that's going on here, I believe that is Arkham. He suffers a head injury on that one, so he loses -1 to his will, as well as -1 to his intelligence, and he goes directly into recovery. Armitage is seriously injured, so he's laying on the ground bleeding out, but he's not burning at all, so he's perfectly fine. However, Obed Marsh, though, not only does he take a wound, but he also catches on fire with the Blaze special roll, and he runs 8 inches to the right-hand side, because when my friend Scream with Emo roll to see what direction he goes right, and he just flees down that tunnel while burning alive because all of his gang members just got burned. At the same time, Innsmouth also got hit as well with a flesh wound as well, and he also got a blaze put on him as well, and he actually rolled, I think, 10 inches to the left. So as you can see there, he just kind of runs in the center of the battlefield because he's on fire, and he's also carrying a flesh wound. So things are not looking very good for my friend Scream with Emo at this point. At the same time, Silk and Mr. Sinister both open up with their guns directly onto Zadok Allen. Unfortunately for them, though, they failed to hit the roll. They actually failed to hit him, as crazy may sound, because they're directly right against him from point-blank range, actually. But unfortunately for them, though, they failed to land their shots. I believe he rolled a 1 for Mr. Sinister and a 2 for Miss Spectre. So my friend Sergeant Stingray, his hit dice just kind of failed him at this point, and my friend Scream the Emo got off really, really lucky on that one. Meanwhile, Scream of the Emo comes back with a vengeance by activating Benjamin Marsh, who then charges around the corner directly into Reckless, and because Reckless is seriously injured, all he has to do is spend a point to put a coup de grace on him, puts a grievous injury onto that ganger. So because of that, he does suffer a grievous injury and will go into recovery. And because he finished off his target, Benjamin Marsh does a 3-inch follow through directly into Silk. So because of that, my friend Sergeant Stingray then activates Silk. Now, unfortunately for him, though, he was unable to cause any injuries onto Benjamin Marsh. But Benjamin Marsh put a hurting onto that ganger using his 3rd arm once again, causing grievous injury on this case. Now, on this attack, though, it didn't get the rending ability, though. He just managed to hit her one time and actually wound her and put her out of action. So because of that, Silk does suffer a grievous injury, and she goes directly into recovery. And because he finished off Silk, he does go with a 3-inch follow through and gets within range of Mr. Sinister, getting ready to engage that guy in close combat. He is, I think, an inch and I think a quarter away from Mr. Sinister, so he doesn't engage that guy in close combat, so my friend just barely got off on that one as well. And I also forgot to mention too that Napalm Ned suffered a failed ammo roll as well, so he will need to spend a turn to get his tanks repositioned again, so that way Napalm Ned could open fire with his flamer again. My friend then activates, what's his name, Innsmouth, who manages to put the flames out on his body, so because that he can act normally again, and he does a charge directly into Napalm Ned, and now Napalm Ned is engaged in close combat with Innsmouth. And with it was the chainsword in this case. The chainsword actually caused a rending injury on this one, causing a double injury. So because of that, Napalm Ned goes directly out of action. I believe Napalm Ned suffered, let me take a look at my notes here. He suffered an out cold result on that one. So because of that, he just goes directly into, skips recovery, and is just out of action for this battle report as well. He also does another 3-inch follow through as well to engage Miss Spectre. So now Miss Spectre is being attacked by Innsmouth with a quick pierce attack from behind with Benjamin Marsh heading towards Mr. Sinister. So with that over with, we go directly to the end phase, and my friend Sergeant Sigmarine has to take a bottle test, as well as my friend Scream with Emo. Scream with Emo passes his bottle test, but Sergeant Sigmarine fails his. Because of that, at the beginning of his next phase, all of his remaining gang members will need to take cool checks to see if they stand their ground or if they flee off the battlefield. And when it came to the recovery roll for Zadok Allen, he did roll up another flesh wound, so because he does go out of action and he ends up with an out cold result. So because of that, he makes a full recovery and will be able to participate in the next battle report, but he goes out of action in this case. So that takes directly to the end of turn number 3 and there's an overhead shot of the battlefield. As you can see, Obed Marsh is still burning over the far right hand side of the table. Armored Timidge gets back on his feet again with a flesh wound, and as you can see now, Innsmouth as well as Benjamin Marsh are putting the hurting on the 2 remaining members of the Sleeping Dogs that are left, which is Mr. Sinister as well as Miss Spectre. So because of that, there's only 2 more members of the Sleeping Dogs left and only 3 members of the Red Faction left. Like I said, it's pretty brutal battle report so far. And it's at this point that my friend Sergeant Sigmarine decides to call a game, and this ends the battle report with a Genestealer Cult bringing in the win on this one. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the after action report and talk about the post game and talk about exactly what happened to both gangs, because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, so starting with the Sleeping Dogs, for their injuries, almost every member of the gang suffered injuries on this one. Painless Joe, Johnner St. Jude, Napalm Ned, and Ghost, all 4 members received out cold results, and they make full recoveries no problem. Meanwhile, Silk and Reckless, they both suffer grievous injuries, so they will be out of a turn because they will not be able to participate in the next battle report because they're in recovery, and Noob dies from his critical injury as well. From the advancements, there are no advancements at this time, and from their territories, the Sleeping Dogs earn 60 credits from their settlement as well as 30 credits from their narco den. When combined with the 30 credits from the scenario in the merchant phase, they earned up with 120 credits total. They spent all 120 credits hiring a brand new ganger named Slick, who's equipped with flak armor, a bolt gun, as well as a fighting knife. For the reputation, the Sleeping Dogs earn 1 point reputation from their settlement, as well as 1 from their scenario, but because they bottled out, they lose that point reputation, bringing their total points to 7 reputation total. Their new record now is at 2 wins as well as 1 loss, and their new gang rating now is at 1,270 points. Meanwhile, the Red Faction, for the injuries, Zadok Allen received an out cold result, while Arkham suffered a head injury, losing 1 to his intelligence as well as to his willpower. He also goes into recovery as well. Meanwhile, Pikmin, he did suffer a critical injury, but he's saved by Old Whately, which is the rogue dock that this gang has because of their rogue dock territory that they have for themselves. And because of Old Whately, Pikmin makes a full recovery, and he doesn't have to worry about missing out anything. For the advancements, Benjamin Marsh levels up to level 3, earning +1 to his weapon skill, while Zadok Allen, the Aberrant, levels up to level 2, earning the specialist ability, so he'll be able to earn experience points like champions and leaders and Jews. From their territories, from their settlement, they recruit a brand new neophyte hybrid named Johansson when they rolled off to see if they recruit anybody, as well as 10 credits. From their mining works, they earned 60 credits from that, and they also captured a Resfuge drift for their territories, expanding their territory to 4 hexes, and they earned 15 credits from that. From the merchant, they earn 85 credits from their territories, plus 70 credits from their territory, and combined together with the ones that they had, they end up with 260 credits total. They purchased a new neophyte, like we said before, his name was Johansson. They gave him the 3rd arm upgrade, as well as an autogun and respirator. They also recruited a new aberrant named Wilbur Whately. They equipped him with mesh armor, as well as a power hammer, and they placed the remaining 10 credits they had left over into their stash. For the reputation, they earned 2 points reputation from the scenario, as well as 1 reputation from fighting against the Sleeping Dogs for the very first time. They also earn 1 point reputation from their settlement, as well as 2 more reputation points from their mining works, bringing their grand total to 19 reputation. So needless to say, at the end of this round of our turf war, they are currently in the lead right now with the reputation points. Their new record now is at 3 wins as well as 0 losses, and their new rating is at 1,610 points. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest news of our hobby. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.